We all know real estate agents are salespeople who love incentives. So last week we did an announcement for my team. We are giving a Rolex to our agents that hit a certain number of sales volume. At $500,000 in GCI collected, agents on our team get a Rolex. So everybody on the team is buzzing about it. So this training, I'm going to go through how to get a Rolex. Said differently, how to get $500,000 in GCI. And the reality is, if you're doing $500,000 in GCI, you can buy your own Rolex. We just like to encourage our agents to hit some pretty cool goals. So let's get into the training. Okay. Topic: how to get a Rolex. Said differently, I know we have a lot of agents on our team that want to make a lot of money, and we're going to make a game plan of how to actually get there. So obviously we just did business planning last week, or this week rather, and a big part of it was a lot of people realizing, oh shoot, I do have these big goals that I want to hit, and I'm having a hard time figuring out what do I need to do every single week to actually get there. So what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to frame this as, if your goal is to get to $500,000 in GCI, what do you actually need to do to get there? Cool? That's what we're trying to talk about today. So that you have a clear plan in place of, one, how you could get there, or two, if 500 is not your goal, if you want to get to like 100 or 300 or 200, mind you, this is top line GCI. This isn't the what you get paid at the end of the day. If this is where you want to go, if you want to make six figures, you want to make multiple six figures, that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you want to make quite this much, this will still be relevant. You could just peel back the numbers a little bit. Also, highly encourage you to be, I'll say selfish, but like if you have a question to understand it, please ask. Like, I know that's the one negative I have with virtual versus in person. People are way more likely to ask questions in person than they are virtual. Please, and engage if you're on here, and get the most out of it. So let's reverse engineer. Is anybody ever heard of this thing called inversion? This will make sense, I promise. Show of hands, raise of hands if you know what inversion is. I actually just learned about this relatively recently. Nobody. Oh, this would be cool. So, has anybody ever heard of Charlie Munger?
No.
Jeet. Awesome. Okay, so the idea of inversion. So, inversion is the opposite. Okay, so one thing that humans are really bad at is saying, okay, if I want to do something, what do I need to do to get there? Humans are actually really bad at figuring that out. Having said that, the law of inversion is basically the opposite. So if I said, if you wanted to be the worst agent in the world, what would you do? Throw some stuff out at me. What would you, if you want to be the worst real estate agent in the entire planet, what would you do? You would start with nothing, meaning you would not work, right? You would do no points, right? What else would you do?
Do the thing that doesn't make money.
You would wait. Yeah. So like you would do non-income producing activities.
Make promises you can't keep.
Ooh. Make promises and break them. What else?
Or follow up.
Never follow up. That'd be a great way to make no money. Let's say worst agent. Make $0. Never follow up. What else?
Don't have strategy.
No strategy. No lead gen. So if you did generate, you wouldn't generate any leads. And if you did generate leads by accident somehow, you would never follow up with them. You would make promises you could not keep or would not keep. You would focus all of your time on things that don't make you money and none of your time on income producing activities, right? You kind of get the point here. So we're really good at figuring this out, right? We're not so good at figuring out what exactly you should do. So if we're talking about inversion, let's do the opposite. I should have done all these in red. Let's do these guys in blue. right? So if you would do nothing, this would be like you would work a lot if you want to be the best agent, right? You'd probably work a lot if you wanted to be the best. You would probably only focus on income producing activities, IPAs, for my beer drinkers out there. If you wanted to, instead of making promises and breaking them, you would always keep your word. Said differently, you would do what you say. Over here, you'd never follow up, you would always follow up. You would have a strategy versus not having one. You guys get the point? No lead gen, you have lots of lead gen. Makes sense? So it's easy to think about the what would make us bad. It's much harder to think about what should we do, okay? So that's the idea of inversion. If you ever want to figure out what you should do, you should probably start by saying, what should I not do? And then the opposite is probably what you should do, okay? So that's inversion. So let's get into this. So we want to make $500,000 in GCI. And one of the other beautiful things about doing this virtually is that most of us don't like doing math. We learn that at business planning every quarter. So I've got a calculator, and I'll do the math. You guys can follow along with me as well too. If you want to change around your numbers, because there will be some variables in here on your average price point, your average commission, your average whatever. But we're going to go back. We're going to work backwards to get this goal. So let's pretend like we've already hit the $500,000. What has to be true? Okay. So let's use a few. I'm going to use obviously numbers from our team, but let's say average price point, average commission, right? We need to figure out what these things are. So I'm going to use very conservative numbers for our team, but I'm going to do $900,000 as our average price. Average commission percentage, I'm going to do, for easy math, I'm going to do 2%. It's actually, if you want a real average, it's 2.33%. I don't know why I wrote 2.33 like that. So this is going to give us an average commission per deal. So our average, oops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this. 900,000 times 2% is going to give us $18,000. Following so far? Pretty straightforward. Pretty easy. So that means if we want to make $500,000 and we make $18,000 per deal, this is going to tell us how many deals we need to do. Are we following so far? To hit goal, we need to do 500,000 divided by 18,000 is 28 deals. Now I'm rounding up because we don't want to miss it by just a little bit. We want to hit it over it by just a little bit. So we need to do 28 deals in this example. Good? We following so far? Any questions? So if you're following along doing this at home, you got your price. You need to figure out your average commission percentage, which will give you this. And then you take what your goal for money is and divide it by your average commission per deal. Right, that's how we got there. Erase this so it stays clean. All right, so now we know we need to do 28 deals. Fantastic, we got our little North Star. For now. Big asterisk there. Okay, so the question is, how do we do 28 deals? There's several different ways to look at this. The first way is how many inputs do you need to do? Right? Another way is your current CVR or conversion rate. So let's do this way first. Based on benchmarks of me doing this for 6 years and having thousands and thousands of leads and just understanding how this all works, most agents will convert a blended type of leads at about 5%, right? About 5% CVR, which means 1 of 20 leads equals a deal. Okay? So if we know we need 20 leads to do a deal, and we need 28 deals to hit our goal, times 20 leads, that equals 20 times 28 equals 560 leads in the year. Following? We good? So you now know that if your average benchmark's 5% conversion rate, which it probably is, roughly, but blended of all lead sources, that means if we want to make, in this example, $500,000 in GCI, we need to generate, and our average price point's 900 and our average commission's 2%, that means we need to generate 560 leads in the entire year in order to hit that goal. Okay, let's break this down a little bit more. There are 52 weeks in a year. How many of these do you actually take off? We have 2 for holidays. And then how many weeks of actual vacation? Did I spell holidays wrong? And then how many weeks of vacation? Let's say you work another 2 weeks of vacation. We know how real estate agents are. So that leaves us with 48 weeks left to work. Okay? So now we're going to take the 506. Let me go a different color here. So now we take the 560 leads and divide that by the 48 working weeks. And that gives us 12 leads per week. Fantastic. So, said differently, a Rolex equals 12 leads per week. So this is how you take a really, really big goal that might be scary and a large number and break it down to what do I actually need to do in order to hit this. And you might be doing your own numbers at home. Your numbers should be different than this right here. But what should not be different is this number. What should probably not be different is this number here. That 5% conversion rate, I would not change. I would leave that at 5%. You will probably change how many weeks you work. Be very realistic with that because it will change it. The last thing you'd want to do, in my opinion, is to set this number here and then do that every single week. And the only thing you missed wrong was guessing how many weeks you were actually going to work. Right? If I said I was going to work 52 weeks and I was like, no, I'm going to work all the way through the holidays and whatever, and you got, I think, especially you guys, would be really sad if you did 490,000 and did not get a Rolex. That'd be a sad face. And if the only difference was you said you were going to work 52 weeks and you actually just took 2 weeks off, which you should for holidays, you'd be probably pretty bummed about that. So you want to make sure you're very realistic with this number here. Okay? And if this sounds overly simple, it probably is because it is simple. Simple does not make it easy. All right. So if you're asking, well, Christian, what was the other way you could do this? Number one, this is your true north star. And again, if this sounds like a lot, we're talking about $500,000. So it is going to be a lot. This is also assuming you do not just have a ton of past clients and referrals that are sending you a lot of business, right? If you want simple, not easy, Sean, you might remember this. Let me go a little side note here. Does anybody want to make an extra 100,000 that's really easy this year? No, you guys all want to do the hard way?
No, I don't want to easy.
You want the easy route?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So we said we're going to working weeks, 48, right? Let me do a stopwatch. Right? Let me do a little stopwatch action here. All right. Who said that? Celeste, was that you?
Yeah.
So let's see how long this takes. Hey, Celeste, I know you said you guys are moving next year. Totally understand that for all of these valid reasons you just mentioned. I'm just curious. So since you're not making a move, like I'm going to have a lot more time in my calendar. Which one of your friends do you know that's thinking about moving next? That took me 16, almost 17 seconds to ask for a referral. And if I ask 5 people, right? It will take 1 minute of my life. You guys want to calculate an ROI. If I have to ask 5 different people, it'll take 1 extra minute of my entire life. And of 5 asks, you will likely get 1 referral. Okay? So if we're working 48 weeks in a year, and we ask 1 person per day for a referral, 5 in a week, we would get 48 referrals. I know, math is crazy here, but we're doing it. Here's where the magic happens. If you get 48 referrals, these will convert at about 20%, as opposed to the 5% blended for everything else. So if you convert 20% of the 48 referrals that you get, that is going to be $10 deals. And they're all self-gen. And they're free. Yay.
Yay.
And 10 deals times $18,000 equals $180,000 in self-gen free business by investing 1 minute a week into asking for referrals. Very real. If you guys are on the team, which you are, if you're watching this on YouTube, we talk about this. How many times a week? Somebody answer this. How many times a week do you think we ask you guys as the agents on our team for a referral to refer another agent to the team? Every day? Yeah, at least 3 times a week.
Yeah, either like right now, every time that we're having conversations, always, refer to someone.
Yeah. If you come up to me and say, hey, you know what, Christian, I so much appreciate everything you guys do. This is so much better than the last place I was at. Thank you so much. I'm like, fantastic. Can you give me a referral and a testimonial? Almost every time. Almost every time. It's not that hard. You just have to do it. And to make this very real for you guys, we had the same referral program 2 years ago as we do now. And 2 years ago, we had 2 agents that were referred to the team. We started talking about it more, and we went from 2 to 20. We 10x'd the amount of referrals that we received, like closed deals, 10x'd the amount of closed deals, because we simply asked for it more often. We made it intentional that we were going to start asking for referrals more often. So this is a side note here, but this is a $200,000 self-gen free side note. Not hard. I don't even care what your lead source is. If you just add this on top of whatever you do, you will be making 6 figures, period, the end. But anyway, back to this. Also, too, I said 48 leads. That's included in your 12 week. So if 1 is a referral, that means 11 others. Right? So how do you generate leads? Whether it be a team lead or your self-gen pillar, we need to put that time in place to actually do those things. This making sense so far?
Yes.
Questions?
No question.
Is this too simple? Were you guys hoping this was more complicated? Okay, so if we're talking about this, how do I generate 12 leads a week? Because I will say, this is a lot. This is a lot of leads per week. Number one, let's put that last. Number one is team leads. You should be able to get 3 to 5 team leads per week from whatever sources. This would be Zillow, this would be Realtor.com, this could be ISA, it could be any of those things as well too. It could also be Pond. You can go in there and make phone calls whether you want to do that or not. That is 100% up to you. You could get, every time I talk to somebody, they're like, if I call the Pond, I'll get a lead. Let's just say you get another, I don't know, you can get 2 to 5 a week there pretty darn easily as well too, right? So now we're at 5 to 10, depending on how you do it. The second thing is your self-gen lead source. How do you generate leads? The third thing is going to be get your one referral from your whole database plus new. Get one. God forbid you get more than one, but like get one. Now, your self-gen leads, this is going to depend on your pillar of business, and this is where it's going to be very different depending on the different pillars. So if you guys have individual questions on this one here, this will give you kind of the difference though. These guys here, team leads, we're talking 5 to 10 per week. One from referrals, so you could be there right away, or you might need to get a little bit from your self-gen as well. So let's talk about what are the major self-gen pillars. Open house is the one I recommend the most. It's free. I built my business off of it before I started running, paying money for advertising. Open houses are pretty straightforward. How many leads do you get per open house? Help me out here. If you do an open house, on average, not your best one ever, and not the one last week you're complaining about that nobody showed up to, on average, if you do 100 open houses, how many leads do you get per open house?
2 to 5.
2 to 5? What else? Anybody else have a number they want to throw out that's different than that?
2 to 4.
2 to 4, yeah. So let's be super conservative. Let's say 2. I think that's the right number, 2, by the way. Okay. So let's say, you know what, Christian? I don't want to bank on team leads. I want self-gen. Cool. We need 11 leads per week, right? So if you get 2 open houses, 2 leads per open house. Let me rewrite this. 2 leads per open, right? That means if you want 11 leads, that equals what? 5 open houses? 6? Right? That's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do 5 to 6 open houses a week, unless you do them obviously during the week and all the stuff. And that is a strategy. But let's just say you do your 2 open houses every weekend. Right? We said 48 weeks. Now, is this realistic? Is anybody who does open houses going to do an open house every Saturday and Sunday for the whole year?
No.
Probably not. Okay. So you gotta pare this number down. How many we actually do? 40 weeks? Maybe. Depends. Right? This is where it becomes super important. So if we're doing 40 open houses times 2 leads, we could expect 80 of our leads to come from open houses. Remember, we needed 560. Right? So this is when you're talking about your pillar of business. Again, we're trying to make 500 grand a year. Is it supposed to be easy?
No.
No. If I told you, hey, I'll give you a W-2 paycheck for $42,000 per month, do you think I'm going to make you work hard?
Sure.
Yeah, like really hard. Really, really hard, right? So if that's what you're trying to make, it should not be easy, right? So if you're doing open houses, realistically, if you're doing this in a week, let's say you do one open house on average every week, you're going to get 2 leads. Right? Which means you need to supplement the more leads with something else. And the thing that I think is beautiful about open houses in general is if you work 5 days a week, let's say Sunday, and then you got Monday through Friday, right? And then Saturday. If you do open house here, open house here, you get 2 leads, 2 leads, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we take off, let's just say we take off these days, Monday and Tuesday, you get your 2 days off. You got, for our team, you got a lot of meetings in here, and then on Thursday, you got whatever, Friday, you got your agent launch, cool, you got your time blocks here, right? That's like team stuff that you're supposed to be going to. I keep doing the wrong colors here. Now, let's say Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you use this time here for your calls, right?
Yep.
How should you call? Well, you should do your sales pipeline first. This is the right now money. Then you should do your nurtures and your follow-ups. This is your future money. I might just change the name of nurture to future money. What do we think about that? I love that idea.
Me too.
And
Attractive.
it's certainly more attractive than nurture.
I really.
I like that idea. That's fun. Okay.
You should roll that.
Yeah, we could call this Rolex. This is future money. And then from there, you have your pond. Right? And this is your opportunity. Mind you, this is if you don't want to do like true self-gen, if you don't want to take on a bunch of risk. When you go sit down and make your calls, the first thing you do is call your sales pipeline for the right now money. Then you do your follow-up. Let's say that this is 5 to 7, right? I'm going to make calls for 5 from 5 till 7. 2 hours of calls. If I get through my follow-up for my sales pipeline, and this takes me 30 minutes, and this takes me 30 minutes, well then cool, I got an hour to call the pond. Right? Or you just stop working, and then you don't work as much. And then if you don't work as much, well, you're probably not making $42,000 a month in GCI. Right? But this is, in my opinion, based on doing this myself, I like this schedule a lot. Right? You do your open houses. Let's do open houses a different color. You do your open houses here, 1 to 4. And then your, I don't want to do red necessarily. Let's do gray. Here's where you put your showings. Right? Your appointments, rather. You got all this gray space for your appointments. So if you're working 5 days a week, that's what I highly encourage. This down here is the most important part. And I can assure you that if you made 1 hour of pond calls 3 times a week, you are probably going to generate 3 to 10 leads a week there. Now, is that your favorite part of the week? Probably not. But it's much easier to do wearing a Rolex. That's for sure. You're going to feel better about your dialing for dollars if you get this. So I'm going to stop here for a second. If this sounds simple, it is. It's not easy, but it's simple. If we break this down, a 5% conversion rate, this is on average 560 leads in the entire year. We need to generate, what did I just say, 12 leads per week, and one of those is going to be referrals. If you get your one referral, you're going to make $180,000 in GCI. Based on these numbers, you might have a higher average price point. You might have a higher average commission. Good for you. But I like to work based off worst case scenario so that I know for a fact if I just do what I need to do, I will hit my goal. So if I come down here and if I'm making my KPI sheet, right? We have 5. We made this sheet for you guys. If I'm tracking the quarter, KPI number 1 is 12 leads per week. KPI number 2, maybe it's 20 convos. I just spelled convos wrong. Right? Number 3, maybe it's 2 open houses. You got to figure out what your KPIs are. KPI stands for key performance indicator. Basically, the 5 things that matter the most in your business. You probably also should have 2 consults. And you got to get 1 at least agreement signed per week. And then guess what? Week number 1, you say what you did. Week number 2, you say what you did. Week number 3, you say what you did. Week number 4, you say what you did. Week number 5, you say what you did. Week number 6, 7, and if you guys are getting bored of me just saying the numbers, every single one of these is a week in a quarter. There's 13 of them. So plus 2. Right? Just me saying the numbers is boring to get there, but this is the slow, methodical way to win. Is cool. Did I get my 12 leads in week number 1? It's like, yeah, I generated 13. Smiley face. How many convos did I have? I had 26 convos. I did my 2 open houses. I did 3 consults, and I got 1 agreement signed. Sick. Week number 2, I got 8 leads. Oh, sad face. Right? I had 19 convos. Sad face. Right? And you do this for the whole rest of the quarter, and the more happy faces you have and the less sad faces, the more likely you are to actually hit your goals. And this is how you take a big goal like this and you make it happen. Let's make this in money green. You make this happen on purpose versus by accident. Does that make sense? Is you can take this big goal, sounds huge, sounds hard to do, it is, and you can break it down to what are the activities that I need to do every single week to actually hit my goal. And if you can just do that every single week, do the basics at a high level consistently, you will be very happy with the outcome. If you're liking this type of information, I am doing more of this in the coming year. So the best access to stuff like this, I don't always do it up on YouTube like this because some things are just not meant for YouTube. We have a free community with 2,200 real estate agents in it, includes our entire sales process and access to me and my team. So if you want to get into that community, go ahead and click the link down in the description below or to school.com/start, and I'll see you inside. And let's get back to the video. So that is my training for today. I will be happy to open up for whatever Q&A you guys have. What do you guys think? Was that easy? Hard? Was that not what we wanted? We wanted it to be more complicated? Tell me, what are we thinking?
For me, I think the fact that you broke it down and you put numbers, I feel like I am a number person. So now that I understand, in order for me to get that 500 GCI, this is 12 leads that you have to do. In order to get that 12 leads, these are the things that you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense to me versus like, okay, I want 12 leads or I want to make that money, but how? Now it just kind of gave you a roadmap to kind of say, okay, this is what I have to do each week to get that.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. And the part that's homework, and we can do, like, if anybody on here wants help with their numbers, I would encourage you to do that, is you just need to do this exercise that I just went through. Obviously, I just made up a scenario, but you need to do this scenario for your situation. You need to figure out what your actual income goal is, because if it's 500 on the nose, great. If your goal is to make 500,000 in GCI at a $900,000 price point, and you actually make 2% commission, and your self-gen leads are open houses, well, cool. I just did this for you. You're good to go. Everybody else is going to need to figure out what their thing is. So, like I said,
That's perfect.
cool. What else? What do we got? Questions, thoughts?
Thank you, Christian. It's very helpful. Like always, you do that breaking down numbers. It's like it's make it easy for us to understand what we should do every week. And maybe for anyone, like the goal, if it's less than this, we can just make the math for ourselves
Yep.
and make it easier.
Let's do this because not everybody. Let's be real. The Rolex is a big goal for big like high.
Actually,
achievers.
it's not big when you break it down. It's not that big. Like
it's very.
maybe it's harder to bring, like the hard thing is to get the 12 lead consistently
Mhm.
every week.
Yep.
But maybe one week it's gonna cover the other week.
Mhm.
It's not gonna be every single week the same. Even if we did the same thing every week, but sometimes
Yeah.
it's gonna be slower than the other, but it's gonna cover each other.
Yes, 100%. You're going to do an open house and get 15 leads one week. You're going to do an open house and get 0 leads one week. You're going to have Simona blowing us up one day. You're going to have Zillow blowing you up one day. You're going to be paused one week. You're going to be whatever. Like, yes, this is averaging everything out, which is why this scorecard is so important. And I'll tell a story here, and then I'll answer the question we just had in the chat as well too. Is I had a few. This was probably a year and a half ago. I was in a terrible mood all week long. I was just like, God, we're like going out of business. This thing sucks. I just want to shut everything down and go back to I want to go work at In-N-Out. And we sat down for a leadership meeting every single week. So we call it our L10 meeting. We do 2 hours. And the first thing we do every single week as a leadership team is we look at the KPIs for the business. We go over the most important numbers for the business. And I sat down for the week and I was like, well, shoot, everything we just talked about was green. We had a great week. And Allie, our assistant at the time, looked at me and she was like, yeah, I don't know why you were in such a bad mood. And it was hilarious because, like, one, I was in a really bad mood that week. But two, I felt feelings. I felt like we were having a shitty week. And then the reality was we had a good week. And just like that, it completely removes how you feel about whatever the given circumstances are, replaces that with like, oh, if I just do what I know I need to do, I will hit my goals. And that one thing separates you from the outcome. Is if I know that if I just generate 12 leads a week and follow the process, I will be fine. And I do not need to worry about, I don't have an escrow right now, or I only have 2 escrows right now, or whatever. All the craziness is like, I know that if I generate 12 leads every week and follow the process, and I know I will get 2 consults, and if I get 2 consults, I will get 1 agreement, and that will get me to my goal. I don't need to worry about closing this deal or that deal or whatever, or strangling the lead that I think is the next one to transact. I don't need to worry about any of that. I can remove myself from the outcome, which is a huge unlock as a salesperson. Now, I want to do 2 things. I want to do number 1, I'm going to write this down before I forget. Most agents want to make $100,000. And if you are 100% team generated deals, let's make $300,000 the goal, okay? So let's say you want to have 0 risk and take home $100,000. So absolute worst case scenario, let's call it. Let's redo the numbers based on this. And then I will use our true company numbers. You get a real on what is most likely required to make $100,000. Cool. First, I want to answer the question, how do you manage this? Great question. How do you manage 12 leads per week? Number 1 is you follow the sales process from beginning to end. And the reason for this is this makes your life simple. If somebody does not, if you're getting in front of somebody and they will not set up a buyer strategy session because they're just not quite ready yet, that's no problem at all. Peel back to window shopping. If they don't want to do that, peel back to market update. Maybe they move to a, what did I call that? Future money instead of a nurture. They move to a future money. They move to a nurture. And then you follow the process with the next lead. And that person does set up a consult. And that is following the process with every single person. As opposed to recreating the wheel with every single person you talk to. Because when you have big ambitions, you cannot be custom for every single lead. Also, they don't need custom. They need to follow a proven process as well. The customers do. So that's number one. Number two is you have to time block your IPAs. Your time in your calendar. Where's the calendar example here? These green things that I put that are my calls are like, you need to be religious about these things. Because if you do not do these, you will not hit your goals. Period. The end. If you do not be religious about your time blocks, if open houses is your pillar and you stop doing open houses, you're screwed. You're not going to hit your goal. Period. The end. You're going to wonder why at the end of the year you didn't hit your goal. You're going to look back and you're like, oh yeah, because I did my scorecard, I didn't hit my goals because I did half of what I said I was going to do. That's a really good recipe to not hit your goals. Does that make sense? Following your time blocks specifically for your income producing activities, super important. Number three is you have to, I'm going to say, trust the process. And what I mean by that is, on our team, let your TCs do their damn job once you start getting deals into escrow. So many agents strangle a deal. They try to do everything themselves when it's like, our TCs are designed to allow you to go back and sell. That is the point. That is why we have them in-house. You also maybe need to delegate. Maybe you need to get some help. Maybe you need a showing assistant. Maybe you need something. I don't know. It depends on what level you're at. If our goal is here, I'm going to transition now. What do we need to do to make 300 grand a year? Okay, let's go back right through, or rather 300 grand in GCI equals 100 grand to take home. Worst case. Okay, so what that means is you're going to need your price. You're going to need your average commission percentage. And that'll give us our average, oh my gosh, dollar commission. Okay, so our average price from a team is $950,000. Our average commission percentage is 2.33, and our average commission dollars is math. So 950 times 0.0223 is 22,135. Okay, so those are the numbers that we have to work with. If I want to make, oh, what did I just do? If I'm going to do 300,000 in GCI, I need to divide that by my average GCI per deal, 22,135. That means 22,135. I need to do 14 deals. Cool. So if I need to do 14 deals times 5 leads, 14 deals times a 5, what did I say? 20 leads per deal, right? 5% conversion ratio. That means that I need 280 leads in the year. And if I'm working 48 working weeks, that equals 5.8, so 6. There you go. So if you ever wondered where our $100,000 game plan came from, I say 5 leads a week let's call it 6, just for the argument's sake for this video. 20 convos. 9 appointments. 2 consults. 1 agreement. If you do this every week, you'll be good to go. So, summary, 6 per leads per week equals 100K income. Oh my gosh, I can't spell. Oh my God. So if you are just starting with the team, I don't care if your goal is to make more than this or not. This is like the start. If you are not, rather, if you're not making let me rephrase. If you're not making $100,000 currently, this should be your, and assuming you want to, this is your North Star right off of the bat, is how do I get here? Because here is a very beautiful reality in this business. If you have time, and then you have income over here, make a little chart. You might have year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, right? So you are income, you might go like this. Let's say this is 100. Oops, don't do that. This might be 100. This might be 200, right? So this beginning, again, if you're not hitting your goals right now, this beginning, you're not going to hit your goal. You're not going to be on pace to make 100 grand for this time, right? Until you get here. And then you are. And then your next 12, and then your next 12 months basically puts you right here. So it is going to be the whole ramp up period to get to your first 100K. This is the hardest part. Going from 0 to 1 is the hardest part. Going from 1 to 2 is I don't want to say easy, but it is not nearly as hard as going from 0 to 1. And the main reason is because you're already making money. And then going from 2 to 3 is not that hard at all. So if you remember the chart that we showed at our state of Onyx we just did the other day, this would be like, remember the 20% more work equals double your income? And tripling your income is 50% more work? So in year 1, you might be like, I just want to get to on pace to make 100 grand. But then in your second, maybe it's your first full year with Onyx, then you might be like, well, shit, going from 1 then to 2, that's really not that. You might already be doing it by the time you get there. Then this year, if you don't change anything, you're already there. This is much easier to go like this to this. This part here is the hardest. The beginning. That front part is the absolute hardest. So, I'll open up questions, whatever you guys have. Noha, thank you for that question. I think it was a really good one. How do you actually manage that? What else do we got on here? Anybody else got questions in here?
Christian, can you please go back to the numbers of the 500? I just want to compare, like for the 300, it's going to be 6 leads a week, 20 conversation, 9 appointments, 2 consults, 1 agreement.
Mm-hmm.
For the 500, I remember the 12 leads and what the other numbers.
The back half is still the same, honestly. You have to do 36 deals at these price points, but I would not. So what you're asking me is this:
how many conversation, if we generate 12 lead a week, how many conversation we should have? Still 20?
I wouldn't worry so much about that necessarily. Yeah, I wouldn't worry necessarily so much about that. Where the nuance, this is a good question. Where the nuance comes in here is how many agreements do you need to get signed? This will depend on how many deals you need to do. Good question. So if you look at all sales is basically a funnel, Okay. Leads come into the top. And then it's very small down at the bottom where the money comes out. Right? So what this means is if you do a consult, so if I wanted to do a one deal, let's go backwards. Let's go from the bottom to the top. One deal is probably going to take 2 agreements, in my experience. 2 agreements, buyer or sell, listing agreements or buyer agreements, they blended close at about 50%. You will get half of your consults will probably close, or rather will sign an agreement. That means you need to do 4 consults to do 1 deal. Okay? So if you're saying, let's just say for easy math, let's say I wanted to do 48 deals. Well, then you would need to do 4, you need to do 1 a week, 1 deal a week. Basically, if you're going to work 48 weeks, that would mean you need to do 4 consults a week. So when I give you guys the $100,000 game plan weekly, that is a blanket. If you do this, you will make $100,000. Right? When I sit down on a one-on-one, and you're like, we're not so much. If we're on a one-on-one, we're probably not going from 0 to 1. We're trying to go from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3. Then I'll say, okay, what are your goals? And then based on your goals, we can do your conversion rates, but then we know these numbers as well too. Like for example, I sat down with Rehab and he has a goal of 51 deals and he needs to do 4 consults a week.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So going from 0 to, like, this is the $100,000 game plan. I could also say this is the 0 to 1 game plan. 0 to 2 is going to be custom, meaning you're already making $100,000. We will have your conversion rates, because if I talked, like I see Trevor's on here, like Trevor's numbers will be different here than Aman, yours number will be, obviously, right? Everybody's numbers are going to be slightly different. But once we have your conversion rates, then we can put like real numbers, as we know exactly how much work you need to do in order to do a deal.
Okay.
A different way we can calculate the same thing is if I go over to Follow Up Boss and I pull up last year, and if I just take all agents, so here's real stats. We did 298 deals. In order to do that, we needed to do a shit ton of work. So we did, I won't write this down for time's sake, but we did 13,855 appointments. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah, wow, I was right. But that means it took 47 appointments on average equals 1 deal. So if you wanted to think about this differently, right? If you want to do, let's just say 12 deals, I just told you how many leads we need to get per week. If you wanted to just look at how many appointments you need to go on based on the average conversion ratio of the team, right? Then you could just, we'll do 47 times 12. And that would give you 558, right? And then you would divide that by 48 weeks that you're working, and that would give you 11 appointments a week. And if you're like, wow, Christian, that's pretty close to the $100,000 game plan, that is the point. Those are not guesses. Those were based on data. But anyway, that was appointments. You asked about conversations, for example. So last year we had 20,531 conversations and we did 298 deals, which means we needed to have 69 conversations to do a deal. So then I can do the same thing. Well, if I need to do 12 deals times 12 is 826. And if I divide that by 48 weeks, that means I need to do 17 conversations. Pretty close to 20. And we had 143,000 calls last year divided by 298, which means 480 calls equals a deal. which means if I want to do 12 deals, I need to do 5,758 calls divided by the 48 weeks that I'm going to work is 120. So I could also boil this down to, on average, if I make 120 calls a week, I will make 100 grand. I could say if I make 17 conversations every week, I will make 100 grand. If I, what did I say here? If I do 11 appointments a week, I will make 100 grand. All of these things are true. So this is based on team averages. Now, if you are on the team if you have data, let me say it differently. If you have data on your numbers, like I could do this for Trevor, and I could tell Trevor, you need to do this much work to sell a house. If he's paying attention on here, I'm happy to go through those numbers. But once you have real numbers on your stats, then you can be like, well, based on your conversion rate, this is how much work you need to do. Because these are based off team-wide averages, which means half of the agents are worse than average by definition, and the other half are above, right? Average is the middle. For example, the highest converting agents on the team don't need to do 47 appointments. When I was selling, I needed 13. And the highest converting agents aren't 69 conversations to a deal. They're like 20. And it's not 500 phone calls. It's more like 80. Right? But that's because they're more skilled. They are better converters. Also, they're probably better converters because they have done more volume to get better faster.
Yeah, this is what I was about to say. Like, the more experienced you be, like the less, even the less number you have to do, or the more convert you can sell. Like, the more houses you can sell.
Yeah. So work times skill equals outcome. Right? If you work more and you're more skilled, you will make double more money. On the flip side, a high converting agent, maybe they don't work very much, but they're high skilled and they will make one money sign. Right? These should be dollar signs here. And in a very real way, this is where we have agents on our team that work 5x more with the same, like, one skill level, and they get 5x income. I can't spell. It's a lot of the times it's simply because they just put in more work. Versus if you did 1x and you're a 2x skill, that means you get 2x income. This person still made more, even though they're less skilled. So it's not just about how much work you do, and it's not just about how good you are. It's about the quantity of quality work. And that's the person who really wins, is high skill and works hard, makes tons. That's like where 1 + 1 does not equal 2, it equals 4 or 11. Cool? Helpful? Does this change anybody's goals that we set yesterday? Curious?
It did mine for sure. Like I understand it in a bigger picture of how that works at first, just because I've never made the 100K yet, and I'm like, I was being conservative with myself. But now that you broke it down, even the 100K, I get it. It makes sense how that would work out.
Yep, for sure. So use your scorecard, your KPI scorecard. I highly encourage you to do this every week. Today's the second week of the year, so you should have 2 columns filled out. Hopefully you are on pace to your goal already, and if not, make up for it next week. Cool?
Yeah.
All right, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so that was a live training that I just did with my team, talking about how real numbers from our business, how they can get to their goals. If you want access to training like this, I do open them up inside of our school community. So if you want to access that, make sure you click the link in the description down below, and I'll see you in this next video.